You are not going broke because of one catastrophic decision. You are going broke slowly, through 100 decisions that each seemed completely reasonable at the time. A payment that fit the budget, a raise that got absorbed, a subscription that costs less than a coffee, a credit card minimum that feels manageable, a car payment that looks normal. None of it felt dangerous. That is exactly what makes it dangerous. Picture someone at 24, steady job, $48,000 a year, small raise last spring. A car payment, a few subscriptions, a credit card paid at the minimum most months, food delivery a few nights a week. Nothing about this looks alarming. This person does not look financially reckless. They are not buying luxury watches. They are not gambling their paycheck. They are not making one massive mistake that everyone can point to. They are doing what feels normal. They are paying the bills. They are working. They are trying to keep up. But here is what their money is doing every month without them fully realizing it. Car payment, $420. Credit card minimum, $65. Streaming services, $47. Buy now, pay later installments, $94. Food delivery, $180. That is over $800 a month leaving automatically before a single intentional financial decision has been made. And this is where the decade starts getting expensive. The month keeps moving, the payments keep landing, and the person keeps thinking they just need a little more income and everything will settle down. But it does not settle down, because the problem is not only the income, the problem is the structure underneath it. More income helps, but if every raise gets absorbed by payments, upgrades, debt, subscriptions, and convenience, the pressure stays. The numbers change, the pattern does not. That is why so many people make more money and still feel like nothing improved. It is not because they are stupid, it is because their life quietly repriced itself around the money before they gave the money a job. One of the quietest financial traps does not look like debt. It looks like a smaller number. You find something for $320. A banner appears offering 4 payments of $80. Suddenly the question changes. It is no longer, can I afford $320? It becomes, can I afford $80 this month? That is the trap, not the product, the reframing. Buy now, pay later does not make things affordable. It makes unaffordable things feel affordable by hiding the total. And the dangerous part is not one purchase, it is the accumulation, because the $80 stays. Next month there is another one, then another. Eventually, 4 or 5 small payments are running at the same time. And now the person is paying over $200 a month toward items they have mostly stopped thinking about. Before accepting the installment offer, ask one question. If the full amount appeared right now, would I still buy it? If the answer is no, the installment is not making it affordable. It is making it invisible. There is another moment that derails many people financially in their 20s. It often happens right after a raise. The logic feels reasonable. I am earning more. I deserve something that reflects that. And the car feels like a reward that makes sense, newer, cleaner, more reliable, more adult. But in financial terms, the car is not just transportation. It is a multi-year commitment made in one afternoon. A $35,000 car can become roughly $520 a month for 60 months. Add insurance, and the real monthly pressure can move towards $700 or more. Then add gas, maintenance. Maintenance, tires, registration, and annual insurance fees. Repairs. The car feels exciting at first. But the payment stays long after the excitement becomes normal. This is the part most people do not calculate. The car does not just cost money, it claims future flexibility. It decides how much room the budget has before rent, groceries, debt, savings, and life even begin. A car can be necessary, but the wrong car can quietly lock the decade into a payment that looks normal from the outside and feels heavy every month. And depreciation begins immediately. The value drops, but the payment stays. You are paying for something actively shrinking in worth while the monthly obligation remains fixed. That is why the real cost of a car is not only what leaves your checking account, it is also what disappears from your net worth. And then there is the opportunity cost. If $700 a month were not going to the car, where could it go? An emergency fund, high interest debt, a retirement account. A move to a better job, the ability to leave a bad situation, the ability to say no. That is the real cost people do not see at the dealership. The car becomes ordinary within a year. The financial effect of the payment can last for years after that. If you need a car in your 20s, buy modest, pay it off fast. Do not let the car define the decade, because sometimes it is not the car that changes your future, it is the payment. There is also a quieter trap. making financial decisions based on what the people around you appear to be doing. Someone can look financially confident from the outside and still be carrying credit card debt. They may have a lease they regret, a savings account that has not grown in 2 years, a lifestyle that looks effortless because the debt is invisible. You do not see that. You see the car, the trip, the apartment you rent, the restaurants you visit, every outward sign, the clothes you buy, the surface level of someone else's life. And if you use the surface of someone else's life as your baseline, you can end up building a financial life that does not actually fit your income. The only honest baseline for a financial decision is your own income, your own obligations, and your own goals, not the surface level version of someone else's life. Here is a number that quietly determines how much of your life you actually control: zero. Zero emergency fund, zero buffer, zero room between one bad week and the credit card. A family emergency, a move you did not plan for. Without a buffer, that moment does not just cost money, it costs options. A car repair, a medical bill, a job loss that lasts longer than expected. A family emergency, a move you did not plan for. Without a buffer, that moment does not just cost money, it costs options. You cannot negotiate from panic. You cannot make calm decisions when every problem becomes debt. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account is not excessive caution. It is the foundation that makes every other decision more stable. If there is one financial mechanism designed to work against you, it is high-interest credit card debt. Not credit cards, the debt carried on them. Credit cards can be tools, but carried balances become machines. A balance that feels manageable can quietly grow because the interest is working every month. You put $1,200 on a card, you pay the minimum every month. At a high interest rate, that original purchase can take years to pay off and cost hundreds more in interest. The item costs $1,200. The card can turn it into nearly $1,900 paid in small, forgettable amounts. That is why minimum payments feel so dangerous. They make the debt feel controlled, but they can keep the balance alive. The minimum payment is not a plan, it is a delay. If you carry credit card debt, the priority is simple. Pay more than the minimum. Stop adding to the balance. Attack the highest interest debt first, because every month that high interest debt survives, it is quietly buying part of your future. Then comes the trap that is almost impossible to see while it is happening. Lifestyle creep. You get a raise, $10,000 more per year. For a moment, it feels like breathing room. Then the space fills. The apartment gets upgraded. The car payment goes up. The restaurant habit becomes weekly. The subscriptions expand. The weekend plans get more expensive. None of these choices feel crazy. They feel like the new normal. 6 months later, the financial stress feels the same as it did before the raise, sometimes worse, because the obligations expanded to match the income. The raise did not disappear. Your life repriced itself around it. Before the raise arrives, decide where it goes. Increase the retirement contribution. Fund the emergency account. Pay down high-interest debt. Move the money somewhere intentional before lifestyle finds it first. Money without direction gets absorbed. Money with direction becomes a foundation. Student debt is not always a mistake. Some degrees justify the cost because the future income can support the debt. The math closes. But large student debt with low expected income is not an investment. It is a financial weight that can follow someone for a decade or longer. A degree can be valuable, but the price still matters. Before taking on debt, compare the expected cost with the expected income, not the dream version, the realistic version. How much will the degree cost? How much will the job probably pay? How long will the debt follow you? What happens if the first job is not the dream job? Audit the return before committing to the cost. There is another number many people in their 20s never see clearly: time. Starting early can matter more than starting big. $50, $100, whatever is realistic. The point is not to look impressive today. The point is to give time something to work with. The only thing that cannot be recovered once it is spent is time in the market. You can earn more later. You can save more later. But you cannot go back and give your 22-year-old money 40 extra years to compound. No single subscription destroys a financial plan, but subscription culture builds a baseline of automatic outflow that nobody chose as a total. Streaming, music, cloud storage, apps, food delivery. Small charges feel harmless alone, but together they become a permanent leak. This is why a monthly audit matters. Once a month, open the bank statement. Find every recurring charge. Ask if each one is worth its cost as part of everything leaving automatically. Not whether it is useful once in a while, whether it deserves a permanent place in your life. The savings are often immediate. There is a version of your 20s that feels fine in the moment and looks expensive by 35. It is not dramatic. There is no single catastrophic decision. It is the version where nothing was prioritized. No emergency fund, no retirement account started early, a car that cost too much, debt that compounded quietly, a raise absorbed without direction, subscriptions that became permanent, minimum payments that looked harmless. This is not a story about suffering. It is a story about options. The person who builds even a modest financial foundation arrives at 35 with something that cannot be purchased later: flexibility, the ability to change direction. That is what the foundation buys, not just money, options. None of this requires perfection. It requires awareness. Before accepting a monthly payment, calculate the duration, not just the amount. Before a raise arrives, direct it before your lifestyle does. Before student debt, calculate the specific return. Before carrying a balance, remember, the minimum is not a plan. Before the decade passes, start the foundation. Today. The goal is not to avoid every mistake. The goal is to stop letting normal decisions become invisible systems. The goal is to stop letting normal decisions become invisible systems, because once the system is visible, it can be changed. Most people do not lose their financial footing in one moment. They lose it across 100 moments that each felt fine. The payment that fit the budget, the lifestyle that adjusted to the raise, the debt that stayed manageable until it was not, the account that was going to be opened next year, the subscription that was too small to question, the food delivery that solved a tired night. None of it felt like a trap at the time. That is the nature of the quiet drain, but you can see it now. And what you can see, you can decide differently. The question is not whether you have made these moves. Most people have. The question is whether you understand what they cost, not just in dollars, but in options, in time, in flexibility, in the version of your financial life that becomes available when the foundation is actually there. That is the only number worth calculating. If this helped you see money differently, subscribe to The Threshold.